Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're opening up a really interesting set of sources that all seem to point in one very specific direction.
Yeah, it really does.
It feels like we are looking at a masterclass in control.
That is a very distinct theme in this stack, for sure.
Yeah.
We're looking at how cruise lines are tightening their grip on the passenger experience.
Right.
I mean, aggressive standardization, vertical integration of travel logistics, and, the vulnerabilities that emerge when you try to completely script reality.
Yeah, it's really a story about the tension between building a perfect, predictable system and dealing with the chaotic reality of the real world.
Absolutely.
So we have three distinct updates to unpack today. First, we've got a major dining overhaul on Carnival's Australian fleet that signals the end of an era for local branding. Second, P&O Cruises is making a massive strategic shift in how they physically move people to the Caribbean.
And third, we have a case study in what happens when the infrastructure just snaps. Specifically, a chaotic power outage impacting Royal Caribbean in Los Angeles that turned a high-tech terminal into a manual bottleneck.
So the mission for this deep dive is to explore how these lines are attempting to control the end-to-end journey, from the moment you check your bags at a UK airport to the specific cut of steak you order in the South Pacific.
Right. And inevitably, the infrastructure vulnerabilities that threaten that smooth experience.
Let's start with the steak.
Let's do it.
Because while this is happening on the other side of the world, in Australia, it signals a very specific corporate philosophy that applies globally.
It really does.
This is what I've been calling the Great Australian Steak Swap. The headline news here is that Carnival Cruise Line is officially erasing the last remnants of the P&O Australia legacy on two specific ships.
Right. The Carnival Adventure and the Carnival Encounter.
Exactly.
Just to give a little context for the listener who might not follow the Australian market closely.
Please do.
These ships used to be the Pacific Adventure and Pacific Encounter. They were part of the P&O Australia brand, which had a very distinct local identity.
Right. It wasn't just Carnival with a different paint job.
No, not at all. It was uniquely Australian. It had a specific cultural flavor that really resonated with the local market down there.
And the centerpiece of that local identity was the food, specifically a place called Luke's Bar and Grill.
Yeah.
This was a partnership with Luke Mangan.
Right. And Luke Mangan is a heavyweight. I mean, he's essentially the Australian Wolfgang Puck.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so having his name on the door signaled a certain level of culinary credibility that resonated specifically with the Australian market. It felt like a local institution at sea.
So it wasn't just a restaurant, it was a stamp of approval from a local legend.
Exactly.
But according to the new deployment schedules, that institution is closing. Carnival is replacing Luke's with Fahrenheit 555.
Which is Carnival's signature fleet-wide American steakhouse brand.
Right.
If you have sailed on a Carnival ship in Miami or Galveston or Long Beach, Fahrenheit 555.
Oh, yeah.
It is the corporate standard. It represents the quintessential American steakhouse experience at sea.
So Luke is out and the American Steakhouse is in. And the timeline on this is pretty aggressive, isn't it?
It is happening fast. The changeover kicks in for sailings starting May 4th, 2026.
Okay.
So if you are booked on the Carnival Adventure for that 12-night Fiji and South Pacific trip out of Sydney,
Or the Carnival Encounter for that 4-night Airlie beach trip from Brisbane.
right, you are going to be the test subjects for this new setup.
Let's unpack the why here. Why kill a popular local venue? It seems counterintuitive to replace a beloved local celebrity with a generic global brand.
Especially when you're sailing in that celebrity's home market.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You'd think keeping the local guy would be a massive selling point.
It feels that way if you look at it purely from a passenger perspective. But if you zoom out to the corporate level, this is about unifying the playbook.
Unifying the playbook.
Yeah. Carnival isn't just selling a cruise anymore. They are selling a consistent, replicable product. They want an American guest who flies to Sydney to find the exact same experience as an Australian guest who lives in Brisbane.
It's the Starbucks model.
Pretty much.
You want to know exactly what a venti latte tastes like, whether you're in Tokyo or Toledo?
Precisely. It is about brand consistency and supply chain economics. Think about the logistics for a second.
Okay.
If you have a specific Luke Mangan menu, you need specific suppliers for his recipes, specific training for his presentation style.
Probably even specific plateware.
Right, maybe even specific plateware.
Yeah.
But if you switch to Fahrenheit 555, you are just plugging into the global Carnival supply chain. The beef specs are the same, the training manual is the same, the wine list is the same.
It completely removes a variable. And in operations, variables are expensive.
Exactly. And it really simplifies the crew training. You can take a chef from the Carnival Horizon in Miami, drop them onto the Carnival Adventure in Sydney, and they know exactly how to cook the New York strip because the spec hasn't changed.
There's no learning curve for the Luke Mangan way of doing things.
None at all.
So what does this new experience actually look like for the passenger? Is it an upgrade, a downgrade, or just a lateral move?
Well, it is certainly a premium experience, and they are pricing it as such. Fahrenheit 555 isn't cheap. The sources note there is a surcharge of 77 Australian dollars.
Which is roughly $55 per person?
Right.
That's a decent chunk of change for dinner, especially on top of the cruise fare. You're talking over $100 for a couple before you even order a cocktail.
It is. But Carnival's argument is that for that price, you are getting a known quantity, premium cuts.
Like New York strip, T-bone, filet mignon.
Exactly. Cooked to exact temperatures. You get the curated wine list, the tableside service, the heavy steak knives. It's a high-end night out. It's consistent luxury.
And interestingly, the sources emphasize the digital gatekeeping here. They are very strict about reservations.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
You have to book via the Manage My Booking site or the Hub app.
Well, that's another layer of control. They are pushing everything through the digital ecosystem. It manages demand, sure, but it also forces the user into the app where they might buy other things.
It integrates the dining experience into the digital pre-cruise checklist.
Exactly.
Now, it's not just the Steakhouse. I noticed another casualty in the notes that points to this Americanization trend. Luke's Burgers is also getting the axe.
Yes, the burger joint is going too. It's being replaced by something called Carnival Topside Grill.
Which sounds intentionally generic, like something you'd find at a theme park food court.
It's definitely vague. The sources were pretty clear that details on Topside Grill are scarce. No menu, no pricing yet.
Right.
But again, it's stripping away that specific Luke Mangan branding. It's moving from a chef partnership model to a house brand model. It removes the royalty fees paid to the celebrity chef and brings all the IP back in-house.
It's interesting to note that this hasn't been an overnight shock, though. The sources mentioned that Bonsai Sushi Express has been running on these ships since late 2023.
Right. This is a slow roll. They didn't change everything the day they took over the ships.
Yeah.
They are methodically going through the venues and aligning them with the global fleet. It proves that this transition is a long-term strategy, not a knee-jerk reaction. They are slowly turning the dial until the P&O flavor is totally gone and it's 100% Carnival.
So, moving from controlling exactly what you eat for dinner, let's talk about controlling how you actually get to the ship.
This is a big one.
Because this next story from P&O Cruises UK is a fascinating look at vertical integration. It feels like they are trying to fix a major pain point in the industry.
It's a classic example of a company realizing that their product doesn't start when you step on the gangway. It starts when you lock your front door.
Right.
If the flight to the ship is a nightmare, the vacation is poisoned before it even begins. The guest arrives agitated, and it takes 2 days of the cruise just to calm them down.
So the news is that P&O Cruises has locked in their airline partners for the winter 2026-27 Caribbean season, and they have gone with a heavy-hitting lineup.
They really have.
TUI Airways, Virgin Atlantic, and Norse Atlantic Airways.
To understand why this is a headline and why P&O is making a big deal out of these specific partners, you have to understand the trauma of the recent past, the Maylith Arrow incident.
I recall reading about this. It was quite the scandal in the UK cruising forums.
It was a public relations disaster. Previously, P&O used a charter company called Maylith Arrow, and by all accounts, it was a completely bare-bones operation.
Yeah.
Passengers were furious. We're talking about an 8 or 9 hour flight to Barbados with no seatback entertainment, cramped seating, and 0 premium options.
No movies on an 8-hour flight.
Nothing.
That is a recipe for a mutiny before you even get to the Caribbean, especially if you're traveling with kids.
Exactly. People were boarding the Arvia and Britannia already angry, stiff, and bored. It was bad enough that Paul Ludlow, the president of Carnival UK, actually had to take to social media to apologize.
Wow.
Yeah. And that is rare. Executives hate apologizing on Instagram. It means the complaints have reached a critical mass.
So this new lineup, TUI, Virgin, Norse, is a direct strategic correction.
It's almost an overcorrection, in a good way. They aren't just finding a new charter. They are partnering with recognizable, consumer-friendly brands. They are betting that the brand equity of Virgin Atlantic or TUI will sort of rub off on P&O.
They are saying, we hear you and we are paying for quality.
Exactly.
Let's look at the logistics here. Because moving 5,000 people to Barbados isn't like booking a family vacation, it's a troop movement.
No, it's a massive airlift operation. They are flying out of the major UK hubs, London Gatwick, Manchester, Birmingham, but they're also keeping the regional departures from Cardiff, Glasgow, Newcastle, and Belfast.
So they're flying into Barbados and Antigua to serve the Arvia and the Britannia.
And the Arvia holds 5,200 guests. Britannia holds about 3,600.
That is a lot of seats to fill every 2 weeks. You need a fleet of wide-body aircraft just to do the turnover.
It is a massive undertaking. And that's why the choice of aircraft matters so much here. What really caught my eye is this specific detail regarding Virgin Atlantic.
Yes, the whole plane charter.
This is highly significant. Virgin Atlantic is dedicating an Airbus A330 entirely to P&O guests. Because of the whole plane charter, they can offer their upper-class cabin option.
That is a total game changer for the luxury traveler. Usually, charter flights are just high-density economy configurations.
Exactly.
If you're paying 10 grand for a suite on the ship, the last thing you want is to be squeezed into a 28-inch seat pitch for the flight over. You want the flatbed.
Exactly. It aligns the flight product with the cruise product. If you sell luxury on the ocean, you need to offer luxury in the air. Otherwise, there is a massive disconnect in the experience.
Right.
Now, TUI and Norse are flying Boeing 787 Dreamliners, which are modern, quieter, and have proper premium economy cabins. But the key thing P&O is emphasizing is the inclusions.
Like the in-flight entertainment.
Yes, the entertainment is back, fixing that old complaint. Plus, meals, drinks, and a 23-kilo bag allowance are all standard now.
There was one other detail in the logistical setup that I think is the secret weapon here. It's the concept of bonded baggage.
Oh, absolutely. This is the definition of end-to-end control. For the listener who hasn't experienced this, bonded baggage means you check your bag at the counter in, say, Manchester. You hand it over, get your tag, and you do not see that bag again until you open the door to your cabin on the ship in Barbados.
That sounds like magic. So you land in Barbados after a long flight in the heat, and instead of fighting for position at the luggage carousel and then dragging bags through customs to a taxi,
you just walk away.
You just walk.
You get off the plane, you get on a dedicated bus right on the tarmac, and you go straight to the ship. Your bag follows you in a separate truck. It removes the single most stressful part of international travel.
The arrival chaos.
Exactly. It streamlines the customs process, too, because the passengers are essentially pre-cleared in a way.
That seamlessly integrates the flight and the cruise. It effectively turns the airplane into a tender boat. It's just another stage of the transfer.
That's a really great way to put it. P&O is selling a stress-free transit package. The Caribbean market is incredibly crowded. Royal Caribbean is there, MSC is there, Carnival is there. P&O is trying to distinguish themselves by saying, we control the hard part. We make the 9 hours of travel completely painless.
And what is the price point for this level of coordination? Because upper class and bonded baggage sound expensive.
The lead-in price is listed at £1,659 per person for a 14-night fly cruise on Arvia.
And that includes everything.
That includes the flight, the transfers, the bonded baggage, and the cruise.
That seems incredibly competitive for a 2-week vacation with transatlantic flights included.
It really is. It's an aggressive play to lock in the UK market. They're using their sheer scale to drive down the cost of those charters and pass some of that value, or at least the convenience, directly to the customer.
So we've talked about standardized food with Carnival, controlling the product quality. We've talked about smooth, controlled flights with P&O, controlling the journey. It sounds like the cruise lines have everything figured out. They're building this perfect walled garden where nothing can go wrong.
Well, they're trying to.
Yeah.
They want to own every variable.
Yeah.
But that brings us to our third story.
Right.
Because all of these systems, the apps for space reservations, the biometric scanners for boarding, the bonded baggage tracking, they all rely on basic physical infrastructure.
And when that infrastructure fails, the modern cruise experience falls apart very quickly.
Extremely quickly.
This takes us to Los Angeles, February 18th, 2026. The ship is the Quantum of the Seas Royal Caribbean.
And the villain of the story is the weather. Southern California was getting absolutely hammered by storms and heavy rain.
And a massive power outage struck the terminal. Now, normally you'd think, okay, lights go out, we use flashlights, we've been boarding ships for 100 years, we know how to check a passport.
Yeah.
But in 2026, it wasn't that simple.
No, because we don't live in a flashlight world anymore. We live in a digital world.
Yeah.
The boarding was initially delayed by 2 hours, moved to a 1:00 p.m. start. But the real issue wasn't the darkness, it was the data.
The sources mentioned something specific about the facial recognition units. This is the new standard for boarding, right? You just look at a camera and keep walking.
Right, and this is fascinating and a bit dystopian, to be honest. The report says the facial recognition security units had power. They were likely on backup batteries. The screens were on,
Okay.
but they lost network connectivity.
So the machine is awake, but it's lobotomized. It can't talk to the cloud server to verify who you are.
Exactly, it's a brick with a light on. So what happens? The entire high-tech, seamless boarding process just grinds to a halt. The customs officers had to revert to manual passport checks.
Which takes considerably longer.
Significantly longer. And remember, port terminals today are designed for speed. They're designed for flow.
They aren't really staffed or set up for thousands of manual checks anymore.
Right, they don't have the physical lanes or the personnel on standby. It slowed the entire process down to an absolute crawl. You have thousands of people trying to debark and embark, and the bottleneck was instant.
And to make matters worse, it wasn't just the terminal that was having a bad day. The physical road to the port was compromised.
Right, the chaos was everywhere.
Yeah.
A utility pole literally fell on the I-110 freeway near San Pedro.
The I-110 is the main artery to the port. If that closes, you are stuck. There's no easy way around it.
Talk about a nightmare. You're fighting traffic because a pole is down, blocking the southbound lanes. Then you finally get to the terminal, stressed out of your mind, and the power is out, and the facial recognition robot won't let you in because it can't find the internet.
It was a perfect storm, literally and figuratively.
It really highlights the fragility of efficiency. We build these systems to be incredibly fast. Facial recognition is great when it works. But when the network goes down, the fallback, the manual check, is painful because we've forgotten how to do it efficiently, and we simply don't staff for it.
Despite all of this, and this is credit to the operations team, the outcome was actually okay.
Surprisingly, yes. The Quantum of the Seas departed on time, roughly 7:00 p.m. It sailed its 6-night Baja, Mexico itinerary, Cabo and Ensenada, without having to cut anything.
But the experience getting on board must have been incredibly stressful. That first day of vacation was essentially ruined by stress.
Incredibly. And that is the expert takeaway here. This event exposes a glaring vulnerability. Cruise lines are investing millions in high-tech terminals, biometrics, apps, seamless boarding, but they are still entirely at the mercy of the local power grid and physical infrastructure.
It's like buying a Ferrari and driving it on a dirt road.
That's a great analogy. You can control the ship. You can mostly control the flight. But you cannot control the city of Los Angeles' power grid or the structural integrity of a utility pole on the I-110. The cruise lines are building these futuristic controlled bubbles, but those bubbles have to dock in the real world eventually.
So let's try to synthesize all of this. We have 3 very different stories. Steaks in Sydney, flights from Manchester, and a blackout in LA. But they paint a picture of an industry in transition.
We are seeing a massive trend towards centralization and control. Carnival is removing a local partner to ensure the steak experience is identical globally. They want to own the standard.
They don't want to rely on Luke Mangan's team?
No, they want to rely on the Carnival manual. They're prioritizing global consistency over local flavor.
And P&O is taking control of the flight experience to avoid third-party quality control issues. They realize that if they outsource the flight to a budget charter, they lose control of the customer's happiness.
Right.
So they're bringing it closer to home with trusted partners and bonded baggage.
The cruise lines are trying to build a walled garden where everything is predicted, controlled, and branded. They want to remove the variables. Variables cause complaints. Variables cost money. If they can control the food, the flight, and the terminal, they can guarantee a certain level of product. They want the vacation to be a closed loop.
But as the LA Outage shows, real-world variables like storms, power grids, falling utility poles, they can still break that seal. You can't control everything.
You really can't. And the more high-tech and interconnected these systems become, like the facial recognition relying on cloud connectivity, the more vulnerable they are to those basic infrastructure failures. When the internet cuts out, the old manual ways are painful because we've optimized them out of existence. We've become so dependent on the smart system that we struggle when we have to be dumb again.
It raises a really interesting question for you as a listener. We're moving toward a world where a cruise feels the same, whether you're leaving from Sydney, Southampton, or Los Angeles. The menu is the same, the boarding process is the same, the app is the same.
Standardization is comfortable. It's safe. You know the steak will be good because it's Fahrenheit 555. You know the flight will have a movie. But it does sanitize the experience. It removes the local flavor. It removes the serendipity of travel.
And that's the provocative thought I want to leave everyone with today. As cruise lines replace unique local partnerships like Luke's in Australia with corporate templates like Fahrenheit 555, and as they air gap the travel process with bonded baggage, are we gaining consistency at the cost of the actual travel experience?
Is the future of cruising just a floating franchise that feels exactly the same in Sydney as it does in Miami? If the goal is to see the world, does it matter if the ship you're on refuses to reflect the part of the world it's sailing in? Are we traveling, or are we just relocating our comfort zone to a different latitude?
That is something to chew on, perhaps over a locally sourced steak or a corporate one. Thanks for diving in with us today.
Always a pleasure. Safe travels.